Oh, so Klopp is 57, by the way. I think we forgot to mention that. I'm not sure if that's if that's any. I just wanted you to know that Klopp was 57. Um, to continue on this Germany thing, because that's really interesting. Because I think clearly now everybody in Germany and everywhere understands that this is probably the next step now for him.
Yeah.
It's interesting in that video when he was announced as this RB Group sporting director or new guru or whatever. He says he doesn't want to coach like he used to before.
Okay.
Which again, at 57 is still young, isn't
Yes,
it,
it is,
in
yeah.
football?
Yes, absolutely it is.
Would you? Are you surprised a little bit that he would not want to go back onto a bench? Like, let's say Real Madrid. If Real Madrid come calling, surely Klopp can't turn down Real Madrid, for example.
Yeah, you would think so, but they need to come calling first. That's the thing.
Yeah.
As is the case with the job that he's got now. From what it sounds like RB or Red Bull were very keen on bringing him in from a while ago. It doesn't feel like something that's happened overnight. So it's a case of, well, will the jobs be available? And as you've mentioned there, there's the talk about him having a clause to go and be the next Germany manager. But how much of that is also conditional on Nagelsmann actually deciding to step down in 2 years' time after is it the World Cup?
Yeah,
World Cup?
so his contract will finish after the 2026 World Cup.
If they win it, does he want to go again? You know, people can change their minds now.
Maybe.
It's an interesting clause, and I don't think I've heard of that before in football, where somebody has a separate job and the clause is the only time I can get out of it is to go and be the manager of my national side. Because in 2 years' time, is it assumed that they'll still want Jurgen Klopp?
And also, what happens if Carlo retires? Carlo finishes in June 2025. Real Madrid. We think it could continue, but we think that's probably the most likely. What if in the summer 2025, Real Madrid said to Klopp, "Come on"?
No, he'd be like, I'm too busy working in
And he
Brazil
goes-
with RB
Bragantino?
Yeah, Bragantino.
And he goes,
yeah.
"I don't have a clause. My clause, sorry, is just for the Germany team."
No,
So I think a lot of things can still happen.
yeah.
But you could see him on the bench for Germany, right? You
Yeah,
think he
of
would
course.
fit it.
Of course. But now the question is, do you think if you saw him on the bench for Germany, do you think the reception from the crowd would be the same as it would be if he never had this Red Bull job?
I think fans forget quite quickly. I think there will always be a but now, especially if you're a Dortmund fan. Even if you're a Liverpool fan, I think this is quite disappointing.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Why?
Because again, Liverpool and RB Leipzig are the complete opposite, right? They're the two extremes in terms of legacy, history, the way they were built, relationship with communities, relationship with football in itself. Like, there's no more of a plastic club again. I know it's a bit of an insult, but then RB Leipzig, I'm sorry, this is the case. There's not more of a, whether you like Liverpool or not, it's...
Well, how about this then? For as much as, say, the histories of the two clubs are very different, how about style of play? Would you say they're similar?
So RB Leipzig, like all RB teams, is the Ralf Rangnick model, right? He built this model. He built all those teams, and Ralf Rangnick was the predecessor to Jurgen Klopp. He's a very different profile to have as a boss than Jurgen Klopp because he's more of a builder. He's more of a structure guy with, I think, a much wider view than Klopp, who will go into this job to learn a lot, but just as a football coach. Well, Rangnick was beyond that. So yeah, in terms of style, no, it's not the same.
Well, it's not the biggest reason. It might be one of the key reasons why he's decided to join that group, because the style of football that they play, he can align himself with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think
You're right.
certain elements of that, can be classed as fair. But I think you were going to talk about, do you think his presence puts more pressure on the other coaches?
I think so.
Why?
But let me just finish on the German national team, because let's say Didier Deschamps takes over France after quite a good career as a club manager, Juventus, Monaco, Marseille, Champions League finals, titles, everything you want, great. But you could always feel that something like a national team he would be happy with that, where it's a very different rhythm and energy even than a club level, where every day you have to be full on, intense, blah, blah, blah. I just think...
You think that's what he's built for?
For me, club is every day, training ground, loving it, full on, intense. Come on, boys, let's have it. Let's work hard. Gegen pressing. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Deschamps is cool. Deschamps does 3 days, go a bit to Paris, go back to the south of France. Easy life, all good, happy, great generation, great success with the national team.
Yeah, but people change. Especially the change of experiences, don't they? And I think it's fair to say for yourself, myself, and probably everyone else here, some of the energy you had when you were younger is probably different to the energy you have today. You can be very much into it. And I think he would have really thought this through, not necessarily the Red Bull part of it from the get-go, but when he decided to announce that he was going to stop at Liverpool, and because he wanted a break, he something must have happened in his life to think this is too much now.
Yeah.
So I think that day-to-day side of things, he's done it. He's done it for Liverpool. He's been successful with Liverpool. You know, some of the eyes that have been on him for that spell where he's been there, it's probably as many as you'll see in. He's probably top 5 in terms of teams being discussed, active interest in the club, all that stuff. So I get it. I think it'll be interesting to see how or whether he enjoys this Red Bull job.
Yeah.
Whether that gives him a taste to want to be back doing that everyday stuff, as you've said.
Yeah, that's true.
Or whether he wants to slightly up it by potentially getting the national team job. But again, unless the German FA have said you're definitely going to be getting the job, it's an interesting clause to have in your contract.
Yeah. There's almost security that I said, if I don't like this, I just can, I've got to get out cards. That's how we said get a card.
Yeah, get a card, yeah.
Because, so I suspect, so Gérard Houllier was also doing that job before Rangnick, overseeing everything. And Houllier, again, had a different mind to Klopp. He was very much of a... I would have seen him, rest in peace, but I would have seen him as easily running a football club. He was that smart, bright, amazing, in every sense of the word. And Gérard would go 4 days in Leipzig, for example, every day at training to see and talk with people, talk with the coach at the time, talk with the technical staff, then 4 days somewhere else in another RB team, etc. If Klopp does that, what happens if he's watching RB Leipzig training Marco Rose, who, by the way, he had with him at Mainz, so he knows him really well already, and just think like, oh man, I would use Openda in a different way, I would use Sesko in a different way, and Xavi Simons, and I would do this, and I would do that. I think that could give him the virus back again of being back on that bench, on a bench, on a daily basis to coach. Because I think now clearly he's missing football, right? 5 months playing paddle in Mallorca under the sun, eating paella with his missus and the grandkids. Like, okay, that was nice, but let's go back to football. You're right. I think it's probably too early to go to another club, or maybe he doesn't want to, or even Germany that's not available. So this works for him, perfect. But what if after 4 days of looking at Leipzig training and getting quite involved in the whole thing, if he's like, do you know what? I'm made for this. I want this every day again.
Do you know, for who I believe him to be, and I think most of other people as well, if he does go and spend 4 days in Leipzig, in Salzburg and other places, and he enjoys it, I think he'll be the person who will look for a job outside of Red Bull. I don't think the people who are in power now will be endangered by him being there, because I don't think he'll try and take the job of somebody else that's in that position. I think he'll start to look for work. And I could be very wrong, but as you said, he's got a relationship with Marco Rose.
Yeah, so Marco Rose had him at Mainz. Sandro Schwartz, who is the New York Red Bull head coach, had him at Mainz as well. Pep Linders, who is the RB Salzburg, doing terribly, by the way.
You didn't need to say that.
Was obviously his assistant at Liverpool. But realistically, Leipzig is the only club, if they were to sack the manager, he's not going to rock up at Salzburg in the Austrian, in Bragantino in Brazil.
You never know.
Or maybe he's been working the club they just bought in Japan, or even in Paris FC that they just bought. They will be part of that takeover in France, in Paris. So you don't think that puts pressure on any of those managers I mentioned?
I don't think so. I think in some ways, for the people who already knows, I think it buys them time.
Okay.
Because I think Klopp will be able to speak up for them. So I wouldn't necessarily think that he's going to potentially take their job. I could be very, very wrong, because it's a very unique situation. But I think for the way that he would speak about his staff, his players and stuff historically, I think he'll be doing everything he can to try and help them, as opposed to potentially have a more selfish side that says, no, I want that. I'm going to take that. And again, I think he's chosen this Red Bull job, obviously because it's available, but because he also doesn't want to do day-to-day things.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'd be very surprised if, having been at Liverpool for 8-9 years or however long it was, I doubt he's going to see, like Xavi Simons and all those players at Leipzig and think, I tell you what, this is exactly where I want to be now. Because he's, with all due respect to Leipzig, like Liverpool's one of the biggest football clubs in the world, So I'm not convinced that seeing them train would be the thing that brings him back to want to take that job, for example.
So when Rangnick was in that job, Leipzig sacked their manager and he stepped in just for an interim period before a new coach. So I would love to see Klopp doing that, by the way. Just for interim. Just
go crazy,
just that on the touchline and see what he would do with those players at Leipzig. But you're right, I agree with you. I think I'm not sure how much pressure that puts on the others. Although if you're Pep Linders and you when Klopp announced that he was leaving Liverpool, you left with him, obviously, and you did your own thing. You went to Salzburg. Now he's back, not far from you. You can still see the shadow behind. As I said, you've terrible. You got beaten 5-0 by Sturm Graz. 4-0 by Brest. Stade Brestois in the Champions League. You think like, oh my word, like now he's back here. And because I don't know, how much can Klopp help really? If he goes and see Marco Rose and say, listen, use, I don't know, Sesko a bit more inside or do this. And what about that? And what about a line being slightly higher or slightly deeper defensively? I don't know, anything. Is that, would Marco Rose sit down and listen? Or I'm just struggling to see what kind of impact it could have. So he's an advisor. He said, I'm going to advise coaches and technical staff and clubs, right? And he's obviously an amazing mind, football mind, one of the greatest coaches ever, anything you want. But realistically, factually, what is the help that he can bring you?
So to put a slightly different spin on it, say, for example, Marco Rose, Pep Linders could have been in contact with Jurgen Klopp for the last year anyway.
Yeah, true.
Maybe
They probably
years.
are. Yeah.
Maybe seeking guidance over little things.
Yeah.
But Klopp, when he was at Liverpool, couldn't necessarily do too much or say too much because he couldn't actually give that much time to help them.
Yeah.
And some of the help that they need might be things which are a bit more obscure than, say, what we expect them to be. It might not be about what tactics should I play. It might be about managing, say, certain individuals or how to deal with things in totality. And for Linders as well, who's very much a new first-team manager, there'll be so much stuff on a day-to-day basis which maybe he's going through which he doesn't understand or doesn't fully get. I think in some ways it ends up being the best. It's like the best paid mentor because they can come to him for anything.
Yeah, that's true.
So instead of Klopp coming in and saying, this is how you have to do something, I think Klopp will now be in a position where he can ask people, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? How are they finding it? And from there, try and help them if they feel that they need it. I think there's lots of strategic stuff which will be involved in, obviously. But I don't think Klopp is going to be like a heavy hand. I think he's going to be... I could be completely wrong.
I hear you.
I think he's going to... Like, even as say, for example, broadcasting football, like, I'll come to you to ask about certain things which I know that you're a specialist in, even though we're kind of doing the same thing. Yeah. Same with playing as a young player. You might ask someone more senior about something that's going on, and they can help you, they could not help you, but you always ask the questions to the people you think can help you. Yeah. I think Jurgen Klopp, with the success that he's had, both on the field and in terms of, like, trophies and the play development that he's had and the sort of legacy that he's had at the clubs that he's been at, where up until this moment he was very much like beloved, like hero. Yeah. I think that's like a good knowledge base to be able to help absolutely anyone. So as I say, I think he will help them in ways that we can't really think of because we don't know the ins and outs of what it's like to be a manager. Yeah, that's true. I think he'll probably benefit from that side.
And even maybe individually with some players, not to do the job that Marco Rose or the other managers are doing, but also can easily advise a couple of players with this and that, something that he noticed.
His track record in terms of his big games that he's won, trophies, won the Premier League, so on, points that they've had, players that they've had come through at Liverpool and develop, like adapting over time, over certain situations. I think it's a fantastic knowledge base to have. And I think most managers, if they had the chance to spend time with him, to ask him questions about what they're doing and what he did, I think they choose to do it. So to be able to have someone like that within your sort of like network, I think could be quite important for the Red Bull teams.
Yeah, that's true. I still can't wait when he's in the stands of one of the Red Bull teams and they're doing badly, and then the
camera... Which team in particular are you talking about?
And the camera shows Klopp in the stands.
Shaking his head.
Shaking his head. Oh, dear. And then, maybe Jurgen, you could be next. Anyway, but great for him. Great to have him back in football because we did miss him for 5 months. So welcome back, Jurgen Klopp.